Hi, family. Welcome back to Landline, your direct link to all things politics, comedy, and culture. I am your host, Janaya Future Khan, champ yapper and menace in the comedy and activist scenes. Let's get dialed in. So, just real talk, we're going to be hitting student protesters. I know a lot of us have been thinking and talking about them, so that's that. And then this Biden and his sealing the border. So, we're going to take a question, but really the theme of this is, what is the price of freedom? So let me just tell y'all right here, let's just lay it out. Student protesters deserve to have all charges dropped. Every single charge against student protesters should be dropped right now. If you don't know exactly what I'm talking about, over the past several weeks and months, student protesters and protests have hit almost every campus in the States. They've hit them globally. And we're not talking about some like riffraff from the Midwest. And by the way, there's some damn good schools in the Midwest. But we're talking Ivy League set the precedent, and we've seen those ripple effects, and those ripples turned to waves, and that wave turned into a tsunami that it turned out the Biden administration couldn't deal with. So what am I talking about exactly? It started with Columbia. A bunch of students got together, and they decided that they were going to do a student encampment. And they were doing it because the way that the United States has been funding Israel's attack and bombing of innocent Palestinians, of innocent men and innocent women. And I want to be clear. I want to be really clear about something. When I use the word innocent in this context, I'm repeating a Biden statement. We don't need to equivocate that Palestinians are innocent. They are killing people, period. And blaming it on situations, blaming the entire situation on a bunch of folks who are just trying to live their lives. So when adults in America and when the Biden administration failed to create the intervention that was needed, these students pretty much risk life and limb, and at the very least tens of thousands of dollars, to make a statement and say, we are in solidarity with Palestinians, we're in solidarity with the globe. And I'll tell you something, they were made fun of, they were mocked. I saw newscasters, news broadcasters, a bunch of folks who use those institutions to brag about where they're from. They like to wear their sweaters. They were saying, who are these students? Why are they acting like this? All this riffraff. And I'm going to tell you something. They were clear. They were clear. They had clear demands. And one of those demands on everything that you've seen was having their schools divest from any kind of funding that was connected to Israel and its current attack. So let me just be clear. When this happened, on Columbia's campus, by like the second night, administrators at Columbia sent police in to brutalize these kids. I mean, cops beating up students. And look, I'm a whole nignog from Black Lives Matter, okay? Like, I know about that. When they sent the SWAT out and the riot police out on Columbia students, I was like, okay. We've lost the plot. Like, we have lost the plot, truly. And it's partly why we were saying what we were saying back in the day. But anyway, anywho, I'm going to just say this. It was already a horrible situation. The Biden administration's response made it all the worse, talking about anti-Semitism on campus. Meanwhile, this is a movement led by so many beautiful, brilliant Jewish students working together with Muslim and Palestinian students and every other kind of student you can imagine. But what's interesting, these lobby groups and these pro-Israel lobby groups really had a lot of influence on that as well. And they were furious at the student encampments. They were outraged even, which, that surprised me because I thought they were a fan of encampments and settlements and that. I guess, Anyway, we're at a stage and at a point right now where they did what they had to do, as in they risked life and limb and their educational futures at least to make a statement because our government leadership did not make that statement. And now a lot of them are facing charges. There's schools that are grappling with what they're going to do now, right? How are we going to punish these people? And then I've seen this thing in the New York Times, this headline that asks, what is the right price for protests? That's like asking what the right price is for freedom, all right? It's like protest is the last resort. Nobody wanted to do it. I got to tell you, as somebody who's been in a number of them myself, I don't like to leave home. As I've said before, I would rather stay home. I would much rather be cute and lotioning my skin and watching The Simpsons. But instead, I was out here on the streets, even though I don't have the knees for that, because every other recourse, you said vote, everybody voted. You said run for office, everybody ran for office. You said get into not-for-profits and make campaigns and, start anti-poverty organizations. We've done everything that could be done. Protest is the last resort. It's also, I think there was so much judgment on the students, and I'm reminded of a Toni Morrison quote where she said, after Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, and everybody was talking about black people rioting, and she said, nobody talked about the restraint. I think it's an incredible thing that these young people, and I can say that now because I'm an elder millennial, went out there and put it on the line and showed us what we should be talking about. It was just at a time when nobody knew what to say or how to say it, opening your mouth. A lot of people were being accused of anti-Semitism. A lot of people were afraid of losing their jobs. A lot of people did. So just being in this place right now where we're asking what should their punishment be, none. The answer is none. And I think it's on us to ensure that that is the precedent and that's the standard. We need to do for them what they did for us. When we lost sight of what we should be saying and doing, they stepped up and they showed us what it was. Now they need us to have their back too. It's put pressure on these administrators and on these schools and say, no, not today. All charges against every student protester must be stopped. That's it, hands down. Drop them, stop them, shut them down, open up shop. Like, let's go, it's done. So on to the next. I will say though, these lines, oh, that's interesting because I'm going to be talking about borders, but the lines here, they matter. I mentioned a couple days ago, what is this, our third episode? Oh my goodness, okay. Well, what an accomplishment. I mentioned that Biden sealed off the border. Now it's time to unpack what that means. I want to be really clear about something. What the hell does that even mean? It means that he's ensuring that asylum seekers, so that means people who are fleeing oppression, corruption, starvation, they are coming here, right? So it's about stopping migrant crossings once they reach a certain threshold every day, which is really cruel considering we are so much of the reason, our foreign policy is so much of the reason why they're fleeing in the first place, right? Nobody wants to leave their home, as we've said. Nobody does. So there's a lot of buzzwords of open borders and closed borders, and I'm going to tell you this, and they're used across party lines. They're used in our own, communities. All of that is a distraction. All that matters is that asylum seekers, and any person, any family that is seeking any kind of asylum has the right to do so. It is a human right, and they should be able to do that. The path should always be clear. I can't imagine what kind of evilness it would take to tell families and to turn people away at the border. But then again, I've seen what we're capable of. But why that matters right now is that whole sealing the border thing and closing us off to asylum seekers. That was what Republicans are running on. That's what they ran on. That was Trump's entire campaign point. I want to be let me just be clear. When Trump said that this is what he intended to do, every Democrat that you could think of and every major news publication came out and they said, that's draconian. I think I'm saying that word right. It's one of those words I just said, I'm going to say this word out loud. For all my other readers who only read words and don't say them enough, we're in this together. Basically, they said it's evil and it's cruel. And I'm going to tell you something. Now Biden is running on that policy. Let me say it in a different way. Biden stole Trump's policy. That's worse than plagiarizing ChatGPT. You understand? It's AI minus the intelligence. That would be like if we got Clarence Thomas to write a new Civil Rights Act. It's just like, it does not make sense. It just doesn't make sense. I don't get it. And the thing that really gets me is it's really to cover his ass. He's doing this right now to cover his ass. Some people might be tempted to argue that this is about us and this is about winning and this is about resisting fascism. And I'm going to tell you something. No, it isn't. Right-wing policies and lefties running on right-wing policies, it does not work. We have been saying this for years. But guess what? Thanks to, and I'll make sure y'all get this link, thanks to the electoral, in the European electoral results, there's all this data now that's coming out that says and proves that when lefties run, I mean, I'm using air quotes here with lefties, but just bear with me, okay? When lefties run on right-wing policies, as in hard on immigration, eliminating public spending, that there is no center right they're trying to get to, and they're not appealing to anyone. They're just alienating the base that might vote for them and that could vote for them if they actually elevated and amplified and lived the values that they claim to have, that's supposed to make you a lefty to begin with. So I'm furious, I'm disgusted, but also I feel very triumphant because there's nothing like having data in the back pocket to say, this isn't an opinion, ho, like you're D-League and I'm NBA. Like we didn't come to play. The point is, right now, Biden has ignored 70% of the popular vote that said they wanted a ceasefire. He came in and swung Thor's hammer down on these kids who were stepping up in positions of leadership when our leadership failed to do so. And now you're closing off the border. I'm having a hard time distinguishing the lines between what a Democrat is and what a Republican is. And I'm going to tell you something. There's a part of me because I once sat on a panel with Angela Davis. That did happen. Because I once sat on a panel with Angela Davis, and she said she did not lose hope. Even when she was in prison, she didn't lose hope. I am never going to put a period forever on whether or not the Democrats will be a useful lever of power. I will say, I do hope that this leads to some monumental shift and that they wake the hell up. Maybe now that they see that it's not simply an opinion, but a real thing. But I'm having a really hard time distinguishing these two parties. And it reminds me of what Michelle Wolf said, that when the lights came on, they were all friends, Democrats and Republicans, no matter how vile their particular policies. And I think we're feeling like that more and more. And that's why we have to take this moment and all the leadership that we're seeing and follow that path. Remember, our job isn't to make people see the light, but to be it. So if Biden and that administration isn't coming in on their leadership, show them the way. Show them the way. Let's put in power people that we value, but also let's protect the people that protect us, right? And that's the students, that's all of you out there. I dare say that's all of me, but I'm pretty ferocious, so you don't need to worry. We had this is really I think we're in a moment where we have to push past our nationalist sort of tendencies and go towards the humanism that drives this whole thing. So with that being said, on to the next. I want to take our question of the day. Let's hit that voicemail.
Hey, this is Miles in Los Angeles, and my question is, how important do you think it is in relationships, whether those are friendships or romantic partnerships, to be in political alignment with each other? Do you think it's possible to be in a close and intimate connection with somebody if you disagree fundamentally on political issues?
Bisexuals are very triggered right now. They are rising up. Nah, this is a beautiful question. Thank you, Miles. And I'll tell you this. You remember King of the Hill? I love that show. I love Hank. I love Hank so much. He is a Republican through and through. He's a redneck. He works hard. He has a gay son that he loves. Don't even play with Bobby. Y'all already know. That's a great guy. That's a guy who I could shake hands with, that I could share a meal with, I could be neighbors with. Dale was the outlier. Now Dale is Hank. You understand? Dale is Hank. What used to be really weird and extremist and fringy, and the joke used to be on the person, it's getting to a place where the joke is kind of on us when we don't know who we're getting into bed with. It's a weird time. It's a very weird time. We're all getting caught up in these bubbles. We're all getting, tied up in different kinds of political beliefs. But I'm going to tell you this. I'm not so concerned. Have the conversations. Have the conversations. I'm like, are you going to be in bed with somebody 8 years and you don't know what their convictions are, what their values are, what they believe? What I love about people is that we all enter from different places. Nobody got to choose what kind of hair they were born with or what kind of skin they were born into, what zip code. We all come in with these very different, from these very different places. But when we have the same belief system, when we have the same values, most importantly, when we have the same non-negotiables, we're set. So, and that's the key thing. I think it's about those non-negotiables and figuring out what those are. There are things that you can debate about. I mean, I have a lot of weird friends who think I'm the weird one. I can't be brought to most dinner parties, to be quite honest with you. Joking, I'm a delight. Invite me, I live alone. I'm so hungry. But it's about those non-negotiables. And honestly, I'm so much closer to my friends. I'm so much closer to everyone in my life, knowing what they represent, what means the most to them. How can we protect our folks if we don't know what impacts them? That's what really got me. And I'm a weird little gender fairy. I don't I'm little. I want to be ferocious and tell you that I'm just I'm like a god, I'm a gender god, but I'm very small. Point is I hear from every different kind of person, and we all just want to feel a little more seen and a little more protected. So wonderful question. I think have those conversations. And to the bisexuals, all love. All love. I'll say this about these dudes who are in relationships with bisexual women. You are so close to getting murdered every night, and you don't even know it. See, we're all going to get through this together. That's a dope question. Thank you so much. I just want to say it's a really weird time in the world, and it's a hard time for a lot of us. But honestly, keep going. Those dreams that you have, this is the time when you can make them more real than you ever imagined. I mean, what's life without a little adversity? So no matter how hard it gets, I'm keep it pushing. We got this together. That's a wrap for the day. On to the next. Ooh, it's okay. We're getting there. We are getting there. Don't worry, folks. All right. Thank you so much for listening to Landline. It means the world to us. This show really is a labor of love, and we deserve a platform that I think represents our best beliefs and also our best fights. So new episodes drop on the daily. You can find us everywhere podcasts are streaming soon. Right now, we're on Spotify. You already know. Find links to points and people referenced in the notes. I'm going to get them up to you when I can. And drop your questions to landlinewithjfk@gmail.com. Shout out to Alyssa and the whole Landline team. And shout out to you, the listeners. You're the real ones. Peace.